Hi, it's Pastor Jeff Elliott from Cape May Lutheran Church with our sermon for the 11th Sunday of Pentecost from Matthew chapter 15. Our sermon this week is entitled, Live Like You Believe. Jordan Peterson is a Canadian professor of psychology. He worked for a while at Harvard. I think he's now at the University of Toronto. But he's become something of an internet icon because of the stand he's taken against limiting free speech in the name of a political correct language. Peterson's also strangely become something of a public defender of religion and belief in God against religion's most famous detractors, folks like Sam Harris and Richard Dawkins. However, whenever Peterson is asked whether or not he believes in God, he seems to me to evade the question. He always answers that he lives his life as if he believed in God. This leaves his interrogators frustrated. They want from him a yes or no answer, and in the beginning I think I did too. But I've come to believe that Peterson is using their question as kind of a teaching moment. He seems to me to be trying to help us to see that the way we live our life says much more about what we believe than does our confession of faith, or even our denial of it. So, in this morning's gospel lesson, does Peterson agree with Jesus? Is Jesus using his interaction with the woman today in the same way that Peterson uses this interaction with his opponents to show us something about our faith, what faith really is? Now, when Jesus speaks in this morning's gospel, it's in the context of a fight he is having with the Pharisees. The disciples of Jesus are accused of eating the wrong kinds of food with the wrong kinds of people and without observing the right religious rituals. They seem to be saying that their actions demonstrate their faith, and that the disciples' actions somehow are the wrong kind of actions. And that's when Jesus makes a bold move. Right after his fight with the Pharisees, Jesus crosses over to the other side of the tracks and engages, or at least is engaged by, the worst of the wrong type of person. Jesus is engaged by a person who is a woman, who is a non-Jew, and who is in fact a Canaanite, presumptively a person descended from Cain, from the book of Genesis, the first murderer, the cursed one, a Canaanite woman. It's about the worst Jesus could do in the eyes of his opponents. I think that Jesus is teaching both the Pharisees and his own disciples a lesson. The woman shouts out for mercy and healing, and the disciples' reaction is that Jesus should just send her away. And that's when Jesus responds, I think, by putting into words the prejudices that he knows his audience is feeling at that moment, both the Pharisees and his disciples. Jesus says, I have come only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. In other words, to put it in contemporary language, all the good things in life belong to the insiders. All the best things, all of the jobs, all of the promotions, all of the opportunities should go to the group that is our group. The known entities, the ones like us, who were once maybe kept out of the good things, but are now having our time living the rich life. In fact, Jesus goes further. The ones who are not like us are subhuman. He calls the woman a dog, and her child as well. It's not right, he says, to throw the children's food to the dogs. But then this outsider, this woman, bravely answers Jesus back. She basically says, you can tell a lot about people by the way that they treat animals. Bad people abuse animals. Good people treat animals like family members. Good people let the dog sit under the table and eat the crumbs that fall to the ground. I saw that when my daughter was staying with us while she was waiting to reunite with her husband out in California at Travis Air Force Base. My daughter's family was here. I noticed her dog, basically a bulldog named Ginger, and Ginger sat right under the high chair of 1.5-year-old Haley because Ginger knew that Haley would drop a lot of crumbs. In fact, she knew that she would frankly feed her directly from her plate. And this woman, this Canaanite, basically says, we shouldn't divide people into children and dogs. We shouldn't divide people at all, because in the end, all of us are just family. And then Jesus stuns, I think, his audience by smiling and totally reversing his field. He basically says to the woman, you go, girl. You get it. Let your wish come true. This woman confirms a lesson that Jesus has just taught to the Pharisees, which is why Matthew places the story, I think, right after the teaching. It's true what Jesus said. It's what comes out of a person that tells us about their faith, whether they claim to be a believer or not. And I'll give you an example of this, one that's very contemporary. I've recently taken to telling people, please don't tell me that you respect me, because actions speak louder than words. Don't tell me, show me you respect me. Please wear a mask during this pandemic. That is what tells me that you respect my health, my life, my equal right to live on this earth. And if you refuse to wear a mask, then you show me that you don't respect me and that you don't respect my right to life. What comes out of a person's heart, it's what shows who we are. Peterson's definition of faith is the correct one. Live as one who believes in God. If you do, you may discover that belief runs far deeper than the fleeting thoughts that we might have at any particular moment. We might find that faith not only shapes a culture and a human soul, but it shapes both in a way that is not quickly abandoned. Amen.